When you're ready to ride Metro, we want you to know we're ready for you. Here are just a few of the people at Metro to tell you how we're doing our part to keep riders safe.
We're cleaning like never before with hospital-grade cleaning.
You'll find hand sanitizer stations all over the Metro.
No mask, no Metro. Need one? We have a few extras.
At Metro, we're doing our part to keep the D.C. area moving. Find out more at WMATA.com/doingourpart.
Episode 1773 of No BS Job Search Advice Radio. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to April Fool's Day. Now, this is an office prank. None of you are probably in your offices, right? But I want you to imagine for a second how much fun this would be to do. And the idea is, on April Fool's Day, whether it's this job or the next one, what you do is you get some bubble wrap. And you know those plastic things that people put under their swivel chairs? Well, you put the bubble wrap underneath that. And then from there, what you do is wait for people to sit down, particularly early in the morning when they haven't had their coffee. And they sit down in their chair and you shock the heck out of them. That would be quite a prank. So just think about that one for a second. Enjoy the idea, and you don't have to do it, you know? And today's show is really very simple. It's one where we're going to ask you to remember these pointers when you're writing your new resume. Hope you find it helpful and give it a great review wherever you listen to the show. And again, happy April Fool's Day, and let's get going.
I thought I would do a show about resumes because, frankly, I haven't done one in a long time. And I'm not going to put up stuff on my screen, to show you what a good resume looks like. I just want to point out some things to you that I think you need to be aware of when constructing a resume in these times, under these circumstances, different than back in the Stone Ages when I got into recruiting. So point number one is you were always taught name, address, and phone number at the top of your resume, right? At least old-timers were. And even, a lot of younger people, like older millennials, got that feedback. The fact is, it's not about your address. It's about city, state, and zip code. Now, I know that there are people who tell you that you don't have to include the zip code, but that's a mistake. The mistake is, frankly, that if you want someone to get back in touch with you, whether it's a corporation or a recruiter, they're going to go back into their database and look for people. And they're going to look for people within a specific geographic area. Now, imagine, for example, you live in San Francisco and someone enters in a zip code for you or just answers San Francisco, California. You miss all the surrounding areas, right? Because it doesn't match San Francisco, CA. They need zip code. And a lot of the stuff, like there was an article I read recently on one site where they didn't even mention zip code as a variable. And yet that's how firms key into location. So you've got to get your zip code to the top of the resume. Also, without getting excessive on the design elements, you want to have a lot of white space around it. Now, if you're in artistic fields, you may have a temptation to use a lot of graphic design formats. And if you're submitting it through an applicant tracking system, the system may choke on some of the things that you do because it's hard to parse it into the right fields. So be aware that there's a choice that you make when you go for extensive design elements to create a visually appealing document versus one that's going to be useful to the system. And why do I say useful to the system is important? Well, although I prefer you not to be submitting resumes through an applicant tracking system, and I prefer you to send them directly to hiring managers, the fact is that most of you are going to do it anyway. And the issue comes down to, if the keywords don't match up well and with sufficient frequency, once parsed into the resume and parsed into the right fields, you're not going to get an interview. And that's going to be on you. because you chose to make the nice, pretty resume with all sorts of colors and interesting fonts and visually appealing. So you thought it just doesn't work with the system. Instead, a lot of these systems like pretty conventional fonts and a lot of white space. So be aware of that as you construct your resume. I also want to mention that frequency of use of a lot of terms becomes important. So think in terms of, there's a language that's specifically used in the job description, and unless your resume matches up with it, the system may not recognize other variables. So understand it may be looking for someone with a particular academic background, particular skills, who's done a specific type of work previously. It's software. It's not a human being. As much as we hear about AI, they're not really all that good yet. Eventually they'll get there, and data dictionaries will get built up. But in the meantime, they're pretty stupid. And since a lot of resumes are being scanned and decided on by the ever-popular black hole, think about it from the system standpoint. What gets through the system? The answer comes down to the wording in the resume and the wording in the job description have to match, have to be used repeatedly, and has to be pretty high in sequence with how it's presented in the resume. After all, if the language is used on the bottom of page 3, it suggests to the system that, frankly, you haven't used it recently. So one little trick you can do is the equivalent of a cover letter at the beginning of the resume that kind of says, I want you to see how my background matches up with the job. So you have the keyword in the left-hand column and how long and how recently you've worked within the right-hand column. And that, in effect, becomes page 1 of your resume. So, in effect, what you're doing is starting off with how your background matches, and then the resume follows right behind that. That's one option. There are many variables about that. You could use it as the cover email for your resume, so it's in there. But if you're submitting it through an applicant tracking system, this is a nice little trick that, shall we say, fools the systems quite a bit, because it immediately gives them matches to your background, and then page 2 goes further, or the second half of page 1 goes further to illustrate how your background matches. So those are a couple of ideas. In days of old, we used to talk about customizing resumes for the job. Now we talk about personalization. It has to be personalized for the listener. Same crap, new language. Remember, if you flip the resume like a burger at a fast food restaurant to someone and expect to get a different result, well, it's like the broken watch that's right twice a day. Most of the time it doesn't work. You don't get the interview. And twice a day, in the example of the broken watch, the time is right. All the rest of the time it's wrong. So personalize your resume. Make it fit. Make it obvious that it fits.
So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few more ways to get information and advice from me. First of all, there's my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. I have more than 8,000 blog posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you find your next job. In addition, if you're interested in my coaching you, at the site there's a button there that says schedule. Schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule yourself in for coaching, interview preparation coaching, salary negotiation advice, coaching related to hiring more effectively, managing and leading, helping you to be a better executive in your organization, and overall being a better employee of your firm. If you have questions for me, you can ask them at Wizio.com/The Big Game Hunter. That's WISIO.com/The Big Game Hunter. The price at Wizio is less than 1/3 of what I'm charging at my website. And I'm doing this because I want to benefit my subscribers here and on YouTube, and only you're going to know about it. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Mention that you watched or listened to my content. I like knowing I'm helping folks. Once we're connected, It's nice to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you from time to time about how I'm helping. You can also watch me on TV. Did you know that? If you have a Fire TV or a Fire Stick, download the JobSearch TV app for Apple TV, Roku, Sony, Samsung, like 90 different TV platforms. You can watch me on either Zingo TV or BingeNetworks.tv. On YouTube, subscribe at JobSearch.TV.com and have access to thousands of videos I've created. I'll be back tomorrow with more, and in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Be great!
This episode is sponsored by Schwans.com. What are you having for dinner tonight? Good question. Schwann's Home Delivery has a solution for you. Stock up your freezer with high-quality frozen foods like premium meats and sides, delicious ready-made meals, ice cream, and more. No subscriptions, no memberships, just a friendly yellow truck that's been delivering food for almost 70 years. Listeners of this show get a special deal. Get 20% off your first order with code YUM20. Check out schwans.com/YUM for details.